If you're a heat and air conditioning technician or even a salesperson, what are some events that you should role play and practice that don't really have to do with the sales process, and why does it matter? This is a super important question. I'm Scott Sylvan Bell. I'm coming to you live from Sacramento, California on a perfect day to talk about sales and business and a perfect day to talk about you for HVAC technician sales secrets. All right, so I've worked with a lot of salespeople. I have trained a lot of heating air conditioning technicians. I have worked with a lot of entrepreneurs. And, you know, everybody wants to role play the objections. Everybody wants to role play the money, which is fine. But one of the things that most people don't ever really think about is all of the other aspects of items, concepts, and concerns that you could role play that would really benefit you, that cause salespeople a ton of problems down at the very end of the sales process, and especially when they're done. And one of these is aggressive people. You should absolutely take whatever items that you have learned over time, whatever aggressive buyers have done, and keep some notes. And then what you can do is you can meet with a couple of other salespeople and you can build out the big checklist of difficult situations, right? So in Star Trek, in one of the movies, they have this thing called the Kobayashi Maru, where it's a no-win situation for you. And so sometimes when you meet with somebody and they're super difficult, it is a no-win situation. You don't have any way up, you don't have any way down, you don't have any out. But what you do have is you do have your nerves about you. What you do have is clear thoughts. What you do have is like, oh, all right, this is going down. I've thought about this before. I've talked about this before. I've had this happen. Like, so one of the things that I would role play when I managed salespeople was another salesperson walking in and interrupting them. Right? It's not uncommon in in-home sales that another dude or another chick knocks on the door and then just totally does everything they can to ruin your sales presentation, right? So how would you counter that? Well, that's something that you should absolutely role play. That's something that you should say, oh, I've done this. I've dealt with this, okay? That's an example of dealing with salespeople. What you should be looking at is all of the things that you have to deal with a difficult buyer, right? The way that they treat you, what they say to you, right? They cut you off. They interact with you poorly. And this right here is why you should join my email publication. I will give you the goods, not in the Facebook group and the YouTube channel. And next, Scott, should I really role play that? And I'm like, absolutely. Because here's what happens. Inevitably, you're going to meet Mr. Smith or Mrs. Smith or Mr. Jones or Mrs. Jones that does this to you. But 90% of the time, it's a Mr. and not a Mrs., just so you know. And you really want to be able to say, hey, I kind of thought these things through. You know, you're not going to rattle me. I've been doing this a really long time. Right? I've been doing this a really long time. Like the non-committal buyer or the person who screams and yells at you because your price is exorbitant in their mind. It was funny. I went to this guy's mansion. I went to this guy's mansion one time and he had 2 systems. And I don't know, let's just randomly say I rolled out a price at like 30 grand. And we're in his kitchen. The house was nice, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't a mansion to what you would think. It was like 5,000 square feet. Okay. Mansion to me is like monstrous house. And so this guy gets up from the table and he had a pretty good sized kitchen and he walks over to the kitchen counter and he's like, are you freaking kidding me? This is insane. This is incomprehensible. And I'm just sitting in my mind and I'm just laughing. I'm like, all right, you're using the play in the playbook. I'm an angry man. It's kind of like getting pulled over from a cop. Like, all right. Like in my mind, I'm just sitting there and I'm like, okay, are we done? Like, this is what it takes to do the job right. So the guy starts telling me how much money he's got in his bank accounts. I mean, that doesn't give you the ability to be a jerk. I mean, like, that's not the biggest amount of money that I've ever seen in my life. In fact, it's probably one of the smaller amounts of money that I've ever seen in my life. So you have to role play difficult situations with aggressive buyers and realize like you're just preparing. Like I would do it like 80-20. 80% is going to be closes, 20% is going to be the weird situations that allow for you to go, hey, I can live through this. I can deal with this. It's not that big of a deal, right? Nothing that you ever lived through really is that big of a deal if you've been through it before. And if you've been through it multiple times and you're like, oh, whatevers. I got stuff I got to do. I'm going to go home and play with my bird, right? That's the attitude that you can have. You got 1 of 3 things to do from here. Just 1 of 3. Find the subscribe button, click on it, and every time I send out a video, you will get an update. 2, hit follow. 3, share this video with a friend or tag them. We'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.